Welcome to Starfield Signal, your place for everything Starfield. I am your host, Luke, and today we're going to be looking at the cities of Starfield. We're going to take an in-depth look at what the Starfield Direct gave us as far as looking throughout all the cities, including New Atlantis, Aquila City, Neon, and more. And we're also going to point out several details that you may have missed as you went through that footage. Let's get started. A real quick detail that I noticed: in your ship you have Dogstar instruments or Dogstar dashboard here that may be a little Easter egg or a callback to one of Todd Howard's favorite games as he was growing up, Sundog. Maybe not as he was growing up, but in the early days of his video game career, he enjoyed Sundog.
As soon as you land in a city like New Atlantis, your eyes are guided upwards to just...
This design of New Atlantis looks so much better than it did in the previous showcase in June of 2022. Last June, it didn't necessarily look bad, but it just kind of felt a little like empty and incomplete and like it needed some work. It's obvious that they've put in the work, more details in the architecture, more details in the crowd and people running their routines, all the NPCs, all the artwork. It looks really great. I'm very happy with it.
Your eyes are guided upwards to just these boundless vast...
We get our first really good shot of Gal Bank right there, which if you get the dream home or starter home or whatever they're going to call it at this point, you will be paying them several credits every month, I believe. So that'll be fun.
Vast buildings.
It's the biggest city we've ever made, not just in size.
Real quick here, one thing I noted over here on the left side of the screen, we get our first good look at some outposts in the distance. There's one right there. I think there's something going on over here as well. And something going on way back there in the distance.
But also an amount of custom art.
Right here we see one of the first good looks at a store in New Atlantis. We see Jemison Mercantile. I didn't realize this was a J at first until I was like, Emerson Mercantile? That doesn't make... Jemison Mercantile. That makes sense. All right, and then of course over here we have some food products. Over here we have clothing, some looks like different casual outfits, not spacesuits. It would be interesting to see if any of the clothing that you could purchase has any sort of perks or buffs on it. You know, for example, maybe it gives you an increase in your persuasion. We haven't seen any of that yet. I think all of that is just going to be integrated into the RPG system and the leveling system, but they could include some of that in the clothing. More food over here. And then we just get a little shot of a grocery sign right there before it fades out.
Crowds.
I really love this shot. Again, it's kind of sped up, but we see just a lot of good, routines running in their NPCs coding, right? They're going about their day, they're running their own routine. You could probably follow them and they're going to do, they're going to do something that they're supposed to be doing. They're not just going to stand there, except for there's one little guy, not this guy. He does something interesting. He kind of like checks his watch. But behind him, right here, there's another guy. We'll see here. Or girl, I'm not sure. But they're just staring at this wall. I don't think there's a message board or anything there. It's just a wall. And they're just standing there, not talking to anyone. Very interesting. Here we see SSNN, Settled Systems News Network. Todd Howard has mentioned in the Kind of Funny interview that he did maybe a week or so ago at the time of this recording that there would be a radio station for a certain location, or that it would be constrained to a certain location. This could be part of that radio clue that he gave. So maybe it's not everywhere throughout the settled systems, but maybe just around your bigger cities where they would need news going on. I wondered at first if this was specific to the United Colonies, or if it stretched out and was in the Freestar space as well, and we get a confirmation of that answer later on in the video, so stay tuned for that.
So the main focus when we're designing a city is obviously what supports the story. We try and tell as many small stories as possible.
I love what this developer says here about telling small stories. It really is these, the stories in between the lines and in the margins of kind of your questing and where you're going, the things that happen along the way that start to make this world feel real, feel lived in, like this character has desires and goals and things that they want to do, completely separate from whatever you're doing to try to save the galaxy or build your economy or whatever. And that's what starts to really make the game feel real. So I'm glad to know that's one of their key philosophies moving forward with city development and NPC and the routines and all of that. And a quick note here on this scene, this looks to be like some sort of class or maybe some philosopher or preacher reading from something. And some people are looking a little bored, stretching their fingers, shifting in their seats. But I did notice that none of these NPCs are doing the same animation. They're all doing something just a little bit different, which is nice to know that they've put that work into the animations and into the uniqueness of a lot of the NPCs that you'll encounter. Back that up so you can see that again.
Many small stories as possible.
This is a Colony War memorial.
A few things we see here. We see the mast office in the background. That stands for, let me see if I can understand, Military Administration and Science Triumvirate. I had to look this up. Triumvirate is not a word that I'm familiar with, but this was, I think, coined back in the Roman days with the Julius Caesar, or maybe even before that, but it alludes to a triune authority. And so this is an authority made up of three, typically it corresponds to three individuals, but I believe here it corresponds to three unique entities within the government. And so the government branch of military, administration, and then science, and that forms your triumvirate. Let me know if I'm completely wrong, but that makes sense in my mind, but let me know if you know something else. We also see a little glance at a sign for the commercial district up here in the top right hand corner. And so this is probably where we're going to see that store we were at earlier, the Jemison Mercantile, and also our coffee shop that we get a little look at. And there's also seems to be like a little commons area outside that window that we'll note earlier. The last thing I want to mention here on this screen is this memorial. This little patrol bot is going by. This says it's a memorial for the colony wars, or this is what this security bot tells us. And I was surprised that once I looked a little closer that there weren't more names on this. And that's not like a dark comment. I don't want, the lore to be lots of people dead. But, I think about in real life here in the States, we have all kinds of memorials. And even on a memorial here in my hometown, like we have like a whole wall full of names of, sadly, that people passed away in a war or a specific battle. And here, for a whole colony war, for the United Colonies and New Atlantis, the headquarters or the major city there's maybe 20 names around here. We see each of these dots. Let's see, got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, maybe another 5 or maybe 10 up there. So 25 to 30 names that are a part of this memorial. Now, who knows? These could have been the only officers in the colony wars that were that had fallen. Who knows? But I did think that was interesting, just a little interesting part of the lore there, that there weren't a lot of names here. But it is a nice little memorial, so that's great.
It's a few moments of gameplay that make the space feel like it's full of real characters.
Off here in the distance, we can see another outpost.
Characters that are going about their day-to-day lives.
It's paralyzing if you really stop and think about it.
Buddy, it's coffee.
Okay, so here's one of our first good looks at the coffee shop, Terra Brew. And we see out here, this is kind of the commons area that I was mentioning earlier outside of this window. And this looks really great, right? Like we have this global illumination coming in that we've talked about before. We also have this interior lighting, but the lighting in here looks really great. The design is really interesting. It looks like what you might think a coffee shop would look like in another 300 years. And they do a good job of designing this, right? They have all kinds of, menus, different things you can buy, different kiosks that you can use, some merchandise down here. And so it makes the world feel lived in, like you're coming through and like this world is kind of pulling you in. It's telling its own story almost, which I really appreciate. This is kind of an aside, but I'm playing through another big RPG game right now, and it's not doing that for me. It's kind of just the action, and it's just about this one very, very like narrow story, and I'm having a hard time like getting into it because the world isn't pulling me in, because it doesn't build out all these smaller stories along the way. So that's I'm not going to say which RPG it is, because people will get very mad at me, I'm sure. But that's just something I've noticed like directly this week that I think I'm really going to appreciate about Starfield.
Buddy, it's coffee.
It's also where your adventure with Constellation begins.
I love this new design they have of this scene. We've seen this scene before, right, in the June showcase of 2022. It seems like this big door is more golden, right? I don't think that's a trick of the light. I think this looks kind of more like a golden material, as opposed to maybe like a bronze, what it looked like before in June of 2022. But notice as we kind of play out this, it still has that golden color that we were noting, and we're opening it up with the watch, right? Very similar scene. And as we keep going, it opens it up, and then all of a sudden it's bronze again, right? I mean, am I crazy? Is this is the same door, right? It's not like, I mean, we have the same design on it, the star, the kind of the triangular handles here, and the design stuff on the outside. It's the same door, right? I'm not crazy. And then when we open it, it's the same door, right? We got the star, got the triangle handles, all the design, and it's bronze again. Like, am I crazy? Tell me that you see that too. I just thought it was so interesting that they put all this work into the new design and the new lighting, and it's obvious that this scene has been facelifted and tweaked as well. And then they lost the color of it. So somebody failed to change the color or the material that this was made out of in the coating. So anyway, it was just a little design fluke I noticed.
Welcome to
Obviously, Sarah looks very different here. Lots of updates. I'm not sure if I like this better or worse. It's obvious that they've tried to do some more with the lighting, with the hair light or the rim light back here. Her eyes almost seem to be glowing. Like, I feel like that was maybe a design oversight. But the lighting on her face, kind of the shadow fall offs and all that, looks a lot more natural. Looks good. Her jacket looks a lot more detailed as well. We can kind of see all the little design things that you would have in a jacket like that. And of course, we see the constellation patch over here on her left arm, our right.
We have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, her eyes are just really popping there. I like this shot of Constellation too, how they have this big open sky panel in here. That's really cool. And I like this little shot of the telescope there. Nice little flare.
By the time you meet them, Constellation is sort of seen as this mythical group. Most people don't even know they exist anymore. They're the last true explorers in the galaxy, and they're trying to find the answers to some of humanity's biggest questions.
I don't want to spend a lot of time on that. That's kind of like a lore thing. We'll come back to that in a later video. But I do appreciate that Will Shen, the lead quest designer, he clarifies a few things about Constellation that we had questions for, just kind of out of curiosity. And I had made some speculation before about Constellation, and I think that key point about, that, hey, they're kind of this mythical group. Lots of people don't even know, oh, they're still around, I think that helps clarify like where they are as far as like in society's viewpoint. You're not going to be this famous person, this famous explorer. They're kind of on the outskirts of society. Getting back to the video, we see this shot right here, which is really interesting. This, I'm guessing this is either some sort of first generation head for Vasco, maybe, or maybe a spare head, but it seems like it's here amongst all of these kind of statues and relics of the past, if you will. And I'm not well versed enough in modern day science and spacecraft to know, but this is very possible. This could be like a callback to like a Mars rover or one of our current spaceships or designed robots that have gone out into space or onto other planets or surfaces to take pictures or to take images or to gather data. I don't know. If you know, let me know in the comments. I would love to have that piece of information.
The artifacts are so different, so alien, and I'm certain one of them reached out and spoke to you.
We get vision, and if that's familiar, this is updated, right? This looks more like the kind of sequence we saw at the end of the launch date announcement trailer, right? That we saw back in March. So it looks a lot more like that. So it's unclear if they've just updated the visions as a whole or if there are different visions for different artifacts.
If you could place it on the table here.
Oh my god. Look at how it's coming together.
This is a really cool scene.
There's a set built by an intelligence outside the settled systems. It's definitely...
I like this scene for a few different reasons. One, it kind of shows each of their characters, right? From the scientist to the two guys around the perimeter of that circle there, and of course Sarah. But you know, she's the scientist, like, oh, hey, this is what it's happening, and he's like, oh, it's part of a set. This is your financier, right? He's the one who kind of wants to be making money off of your expeditions and off of your efforts. And so he wants more of these so he can sell more data or whatever his motives are. And then this guy says what I think a lot of people were wondering or maybe hoping would be the case, that, oh, you know, these are from an alien species outside of our galaxy. And everyone's like, whoa, did this just confirm what we had all been thinking? And then Emil, the lead designer, comes on and says, well, he's actually a theologian. So he's kind of bent towards this idea that there is something else out there. There's this alien species that is trying to connect with us. And so that is just a cool way that they're wrapping in this storytelling and this world building into this moment here. But that's not necessarily confirmation of what's true within the galaxy.
systems. It's definitely an eclectic cast of characters. You've got Sarah Morgan, the ex-soldier and adventurer, now Constellation's leader. Mateo, the theologian who believes that there's definitely something else out there. Noel, the gifted scientist and Sarah Morgan's protege. And Walter, a very successful businessman. And
so it says he's a very successful businessman. And so it shows this shot of him here. And this is one of the manufacturers we have for your ship parts and making your ship and upgrading those, Stroud Eklund. And so it makes me wonder if, you know, he is Walter Stroud or Walter Eklund. And if so, maybe if we, you know, cozy up to him and are nice to him and kind of do the things that he wants us to do, maybe we could get some nice discounts on some bigger ship parts. So that would be nice as well.
Man in the settled systems and Constellation's financier.
Anything goes as long as you have the money.
There's also Vlad, the ex-pirate. Sam Coe.
So Vlad, he's an ex-pirate. He's probably done some shady stuff before, but remember in the first showcase, the whole thing about the Crimson Fleet is no one quits. You know, once you're in, the only way out is death. And so he must have done some shady stuff or been really slick to get out of the Crimson Fleet. And then, of course, we see Samuel Coe here.
Sam Coe, the former space cowboy, and
before we move on from Sam Coe, we see a shot a little bit later that contributes to this theory. But my theory is that he is a descendant of Solomon Coe, the founder of Aquila City, capital of the Free Star Collective. And again, we'll see something later that kind of attributes to this theory. But that's my working theory for now. And so I don't know, it's been about 160 years since 2167 when Aquila City was founded. The game set in 2330. So he would be, I don't know, a great grandson, depending on how you work that math out. But that's my working theory for now.
He's cowboy and Barrett.
You know what I hate about these pirates? Completely resistant to my otherwise irresistible charm.
I have a feeling I'm going to like Barrett. He seems to be kind of like the comic relief, kind of like the lighthearted one in the group. But also here in this shot, we get a good look at a patch on his left shoulder. We see the constellation patch over here. And so this would be part of his skills or his perks. I'm unsure if we see his later. I know we see a few of their skills, but we'll see that in the companion section when we get to it.
The journey you take with Constellation is just the first of many you'll embark on. The Settled Systems is home to all kinds of different stories, people.
Right here, just notice that in this scene, I didn't notice this the first time around, but these are grave sites. The rocks kind of set up over the graves. So I wanted to point that out. Maybe this is after a big battle, or maybe this is part of the Freestar Collective's memorial for their fallen from a recent battle.
And adventures for you to uncover.
That looks crazy.
The United
Another good shot of
Colonies
New
is where
Atlantis.
you'll find New Atlantis, the first major human settlement in space. The people who
Another
live
shot of
here
the coffee
value
shop.
law,
Nothing new there.
discipline, and the legacy of.
Here in this
you see-
shot, I studied this for a long time and tried to do as much research as I could. I was very curious to find out, okay, here's all these emblems on each of these flags. There are 6 different emblems. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This one starts over the same as the first one. We haven't seen any of these just yet in any of the trailers or any of the showcase from last year. Even the United Colonies, we've just seen kind of the UC, right? We haven't seen this emblem. So my working theory, and there's something just a little bit later here that confirms this, but my working theory was either that these represent 6 different individual factions within the United Colonies, or they represent 6 different colonies of the United Colonies. Like that's a real possibility as well. So we'll see which one of those that the direct confirms here in just a moment.
Legacy of humanity. They can.
Also, right here, this guy, Lone Vault Wanderer, right? I mean, does he look like that to you? Lone, is this you? Did they put you in Starfield? All right, let me know. Let me know in the comments.
Consider themselves the true children of Earth.
You ever think of joining up with the Vanguard? Help the United Colonies, even get your UC citizenship?
Okay, go back here. So this guy is recruiting you to the Vanguard.
Help the United
And
Colonies.
real quick, we get just a glimpse right over here of this patch on his arm. We've seen that before, right? Let's come back. Where do we see that? Right here. So this, we can assume from the Vanguard recruitment guide trying to get you on his team, that this is a Vanguard emblem, and that's the Vanguard flag. So if that's true, it would lead me to believe that these other 5 are also connected with different smaller factions or branches of the government, if you will, of New Atlantis. And what did we see earlier? We saw MAST, right? This is military, administrative, and science. So my guess is that 4 of these are for the military side of things, and 2 of them are for administrative and science. I don't know which ones they are. I wouldn't, if I was just guessing, I wouldn't have guessed this one for the Vanguard. I would have guessed like the one with the sword in it or something. But just within the military side, we also know that we have we have the UC security. We've seen all those around New Atlantis and other United Colonies worlds, making sure everything's secure. And we also have UC system defense. So we have UC system defense, UC security, and then Vanguard. So there may be one more military faction that we don't know about just yet. And then we have administrative and science. Maybe the science is the little cogwheel. Maybe just a callback to Bethesda. or it could be that the cogwheel is administrative because the administration keeps things moving like a cog in a machine. I feel like that's a little bit stretching, but anyway, if you have any theories about this, let me know because I'm really interested to figure this out. Or if you've seen anything confirmed about any of these other than the Vanguard flag, let me know as well. Thank you.
New Atlantis isn't the only city within the United Colonies. The city of Cydonia on Mars to this day serves as the largest mining facility for the United Colonies.
And no big details to point out here, but of course this is kind of front and center, right? 11 hours without incident. This could be just kind of a cheeky little like, haha, that's funny, you know, they're not very safe. You know, or it could be like a realistically like, no, this is pretty dangerous stuff here. And this also could be referring to your incident, right? We looked at on the star map that that the Sol system, where Mars is, where Cydonia is a level 1 system. So it's very possible this could be your starting point for the game, which makes it possible that this 11 hours without incident, this could be your incident that happened, that reset this thing. So I don't know. That's an interesting theory. Let me know what you think about our starting location for the game. I know there's been a few rumors out there that we may even have multiple starting locations. What do you think about that? I'm not going to go through those rumors right now, but very interesting things to think about.
Beyond the United Colonies' reach, you might find yourself in a much more wild and independent coalition of star systems. This is Freestar Collective Space.
Okay, so we get a good look at Aquila City here. Definitely similar to what we saw in the June showcase of last year, but graphically updated, and it looks great. It definitely has a more Western outpost kind of vibe to it. From the dirt roads, the hitching post, the wooden signs. We see lots of wood here. I know that sounds funny to say, lots of wood and like leather and burlap, but look at the guns. They have wood stocks on them, right? These are not like futuristic laser or ballistic weapons. And then kind of moving on here, we see Co Plaza, again referring to Solomon Coe, the founder. And way back here, this is a statue of what I believe is Solomon Coe. And let's see. I'll try to find that later on down the direct and put that in right here for you to get a better look at it, because it's kind of hard to see right now.
The capital of the Freestar Collective is Aquila City.
The Stone Root Inn is in.
So this is like a little bar, or maybe even the Stone Roof Inn of what this voiceover is referring to. I did notice up here this big trophy that they have on the wall. So if you're not familiar with bars or places out in the country here in the United States, they like to display their trophies and hang them on the wall. And so whatever this creature is, they are very proud to have that.
An Aquila City fixture.
A ranger relies on judgment and intuition to do
no real
what's
details
best
here.
for
They
the
just kind of
people.
play up this Western duel type thing. So here in this shot of Neon, it gives us, we already knew that Neon was in the Vol 2 system, but we weren't sure if it was in the United Colonies or if it was in Freestar space. And of course, we get confirmed that this is in Freestar space.
A fishing platform, but is now known throughout the settled systems as a pleasure city.
Going back here, so we also see that the Settled Systems News Network is available in Neon, which means it is available in the Freestar Collective, in the Freestar space, which is good to know. We also see the Vol 2 Hotel that we've seen before, a few other things, a few other like businesses and brands, Reliant Medical right here, and we have Seghart's Outfitters. I couldn't find any reference to Seghart. If that is an Easter egg of an astronaut or something like that, let me know in the comments. I would love to have that piece of information.
The settled systems as a pleasure city where almost anything goes.
Here is where we get a good shot of a place at Ryujin Industries. We know that because of the dragon hanging from the ceiling, the ominous dragon, and the waterfalls coming down. So just real like surface level and brief. I didn't do a ton of research on this, but Ryujin refers to a dragon who was kind of like a deity of the ocean. That's very surface level, probably not exactly correct, but that's the references here.
If you've got morality issues, this definitely isn't the job for you.
Here we see Aurora shipments being packaged, ready to go, and looks like some laboratory equipment. And of course, our player character here is wearing this lab suit to keep safe from any toxic fumes that may be going on while they're doing their lab stuff. And we get another shot of this looks like maybe a centrifuge of some sort there. And here we see the Astral Lounge, and being in neon, staying on brand, they are wearing what looks to be like some fish type costumes with fins on them or tentacles. I'm not sure, but they're having a good time either way.
Ryujin is hiring the best and in your ass.
Actually, lots of this little shot happens really quick, but there's lots of little details there I want to go back and explore. See, the first is right here. We see Ryujin Apartments up there in the top left. Just kind of reinforcing this idea that Ryujin, they kind of own neon, right? They own everything about it. And then over here we see 3-Star Rangers. So they have an office or headquarters in neon as well that you could go to and maybe get quests. We have a market over here. Come in and maybe get some clothes, get some food, restock if you need to. Let's go forward just a little bit more. We'll see some other things. Here we see the Neon Legend, and looks to be like a DJ, but her name is Borealis. Aurora Borealis. Very clever. We see our spaceport terminal up here, and then we see a sign over here that says Authority. I don't think this is any kind of, I think this is just like a security kind of thing. I don't think it's anything to do with the United Colonies, because again, this is 3-star space.
The best and brightest of today for our
here, this guy, he seems to be like maybe some sort of crime boss or faction leader in Neon. And we see that he is part of, I believe this says Strikers on his jacket. And so there may be like a quest line there that we could do with this character.
today for our future.
Again, we see the Ryujin Industries dragon up here. Kind of have their hands in everything.
Everyone has been chewed up and ground up by Neon. Try not to get yourself killed, all right?
It's pretty brutal.
Outside the bounds of civilized space, there are still plenty of unclaimed systems to explore, but these areas are also home to the most hostile factions in the galaxy.
So this is the snake emblem for House Varun, the religious zealots.
The great serpent hungers. All heathens shall be made dust in time.
And we see that confirmed here by the NPC tag Varun Zealot. And keep going. And to my knowledge, this is the first time we are seeing the Red Mile. It is on Porma 3 in the Porma system. And let's just keep going, and it'll give us some more context. So we see some weather effects here.
This is the face of a brave runner here to challenge the Red Mile.
And so you see here, she says, "Are you a brave runner?" And then we see all along the wall, run, 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 run. So I'm assuming this is where you get some quests if you are a cyber runner, which could give some more context and kind of fill out that background a little bit more for us. I would assume this is some sort of cyber hacker with all these terminals around. Maybe this is a type of arcade for hackers or a library for hackers. I don't know. If you have any more insight into this, please let me know. I haven't done a ton of research on that yet, but this really sets a very interesting tone for that background, and I'm kind of considering it now when I wasn't before. We get a good look at the key, the Crimson Fleet headquarters in the Crix system. We have heard of the Crix system before in the email that Emil Pagliariello was typing up that was talking about the Crimson Fleet. This looks to be like either an abandoned or more likely an overtaken Star Yard, right? We've seen the Star Yards before, and there's lots of things you can do on them, from economy to merchants to stores to buy new ships. This looks to be like a big Star Yard that the Crimson Fleet has just kind of taken over and said, this is ours now, go away. Or they just killed everybody in there, who knows. But let's take a look at this.
They think the galaxy is theirs. They are wrong. It belongs to the Crimson Fleet. It always has.
In Starfield, we're
just back up and take a little bit slower look at some of that. So we have what looks to be like again, the command center or the control center that was overtaken, and they've put up their emblem there, their Crimson Fleet emblem, and they seem to be very much antagonistic to the United Colonies specifically, not just the settled systems in general, but the United Colonies. And so they're like, what future? Kind of making fun at this poster here. And then I thought this was classy. Like, this is like bathroom wall, a gas station on the side of the road, bathroom wall graffiti, right? Real classy, nice.
They are wrong. It belongs.
And this seems to be kind of the character. Maybe I know we were told that the Crimson Fleet is not necessarily like one big organization, but they're kind of separate captains doing their own thing. But this seems to be the same NPC we saw in the first showcase, and so we could assume that he may be one of the quest givers to us, one of our main points of contact within the Crimson Fleet.
It belongs to the Crimson Fleet. It always has.
In Starfield, we're pushing our cities and settlements further than we ever have before. It's all there, waiting for you. A slice of humanity's future.
So, ready to get out there?
Be sure to like the video, and if you're not already subscribed, consider doing so. We would love to have you here on the Signal crew. We're all about positivity and excitement, and it would be awesome to have you. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you found that interesting and that you caught a lot of those details with us. Thank you so much to all of our patrons and YouTube channel members who make this channel continue to grow and continue to get better and better in quality. I appreciate every single one of you. Join us on our Discord if you're not already on there. A link is in the description. For now, may you find wonder as you journey through the stars.